For those of you who haven't met me last night or don't know me at all, I'm the Customer Innovation Lead at Nasstar. So we're very, my role is centralised about kind of finding the pieces of next generation solutions and kind of fitting them together and working to productise them in a way that they can be consumed. Been doing this sort of over the past year by talking to our customers, understanding key difficulties and technology barriers from like a small sample. And what I found is that when it's done effectively, we actually improve the user experience. I'm going to be talking about the changing landscape of cloud computing, how we're working to embrace opportunities in the public cloud, as Nigel was saying that he learned quite a bit from the Cloud Hosting Summit, and how service providers such as ourselves were working to adapt to this new trend of adopting functionality in the public cloud. And so a lot of this research is actually centred around the Microsoft Cloud suite, but our research won't stop there. Depending on various, the business requirements of the customers, we will seek third parties as well. So, I want to talk about what's driving change today, and what's sort of like the key driver behind this sudden switch into a hybrid approach with the public cloud. So, third-party SaaS providers is creating a new challenge for information compliance. But the issue is that employees want the tools to get stuff done. And in many cases, they'll go out their way to go find them before IT can actually go catch up. So many will have little consideration as to the implications that this will have. So for the vast majority of you who hold a hosted desktop already, users are protected by this perimeter here. But it's not going to protect any information or services consumed outside of it. That's where this issue kind of arises. So if you wanted to share a large file in the previous decade, chances are you put it on a flash drive, and that's why so many businesses ban them today. You're immediately losing control of that information. Now, you wouldn't even think of it sort of 10 years ago, but you just Google send large file, and there's about like 10 services that allow you to do it as a one-off. Immediately you've lost control of that information. And IT has limited visibility and protection against all of this. The emergence of this problem has gained momentum mainly because of mobility, mobile devices, computers getting more powerful in their pockets. So users who are the most loyal to their companies, who want to be the most productive at any hour of the day, ultimately become information security's worst enemy by enabling these services without IT's guidance. So this is the problem from a very high level, but it's very complex and there's no one-size-fits-all solution to it. So the focus is on businesses losing control of their data and exploiting the credentials of those services that potentially users may go out and register for. So if someone going to use a public SaaS product, use the company credit card to go and register for it, the risk, of course, is that those credentials could get compromised in some way. Those non-compliant services themselves could be compromised. So we've seen it in the media with credentials being leaked, usernames and passwords being stolen. And so here at Nasstar, we've been approaching the issue in a very user-centric way. I don't think there's any other way to go about it, really, and that is basically giving employees the tools they need so they shouldn't go looking for an alternative. It will be easier for an employee to communicate using, say, like a compliant SaaS tool such as like Skype for Business to hold like meetings remotely than, say, use Facebook or WhatsApp to do exactly the same job, non-compliant. And this ensures like e-discovery compliance and make sure that the information is actually secure. If you give them compliant client file storage that is managed by the organisation, so users can collaborate well, they'll stop emailing the file to themselves. It stays within the realms of compliance. Security auditing and visibility is very much built in to the compliant ones, and in many ways actually linked together. You've got like an audit trail. So if there's any information leaked outside of an organisation, you could probably trace it back to a single user. And this is where we come in as a service provider. So the solution for us, certainly in the future, and we've slowly started implementing parts of it, is hybrid. It's all about service providers being able to seamlessly move data and workloads all across these different locations while maintaining the security and integrity of our own data center and making sure that information is compliant. A lot of this is centered around identity, which is what we were talking about with things like conditional access as well in the previous section. If you go out and enable loads of cloud services, what you don't want is about 3 or 4 different logins for them, because if someone was to leave the organisation, it's hell on earth to try and kill all those accounts. So a lot of our approach to the solution is centered around single sign-on and controlling that single identity you have with us. So that way when you enable these services and workloads, if say an employee was to leave the organisation, we cut off the access here and they lose access to all of this. And Microsoft are very much building this around the Enterprise Mobility Suite, for example, which is over here. And that allows this cloud identity to seamlessly link with your corporate Facebook account. So we've already delivered, I'd say about to here, pretty much. We're still in the very early stages of looking at the Enterprise Mobility Suite. But we've got some customers on Office 365 that have a hosted desktop, and they enjoy the seamless kind of single sign-on approach, to all their information. When you provision a user over here, it automatically appears over there, and everything just works.
So just to clarify, the Office 365 is not in the data center.
No.
This is Microsoft's.
This is Microsoft's data center. So this is where, say, like your documents would be stored on OneDrive for Business, which enables this, real-time collaboration and functionality. Now, the beauty of this situation being hybrid is that you can still have your data here as well. So you could store your most sensitive of information, and if you've got compliance that you need to currently keep, say with the SRA is a real grey area still at the moment. You may choose to keep the majority of your information here, but you can enable the real-time collaboration by putting, say, certain documents on OneDrive and being able to collaborate with users, for example.
And how's security on OneDrive?
Microsoft have actually got a document which outlines the way they meet various regulatory standards. So the security is, again, it's only as good as its weakest link. So that's the reason why we recommend multi-factor authentication, certainly as you get past this line here. You can get like an Azure Authenticator app on your phone. So you have a code that constantly changes every 30 seconds. So you can get access to these services that way. They've just recently updated the app as well to be like kind of notification based. So instead of having to type in like a pin sentry thing, you just get a push notification to your phone. So you just tap it and go, right, yes, I am me. Yes.
It's pretty secure now. They've got UK data centres and it's actually IL3 compliant, which is business impact level 3. So it's for government standards. Most of the public sector can now store their data on OneDrive. So there's other reasons why you want to host your data with us. But for Office 365, it's a very good product for business tools. And if you compare Microsoft to some of the other guys, AWS, they've actually lost quite a lot of their customers' data, and that's not really happened to Microsoft. They're pretty well sought after in Silicon Valley in terms of their security levels of security.
We've also recently enabled with partners such as CloudFinder. We're actually a CloudFinder partner now, where they actually back up Office 365 now. That sounds silly, really, if you think about it, because Office 365 should be secure, should be already, resilient against that kind of thing. But Microsoft actually only protect against disaster recovery. So if their data center was to die, it doesn't stop malicious deletion. You can put in like legal holds on data, so you can put like mailboxes on hold and things like that. But we found, certainly in testing, it doesn't work that well. So CloudFinder is literally a point-in-time backup of someone's OneDrive and Outlook.
So why would someone use OneDrive over your eFile Sync products?
So we're actually going to be doing, I'm actually going to be doing a webinar on kind of like a versus, because they've both got two very independent purposes. So eFile Sync was brought about because of this SRA issue. eFile Sync is fully SRA compliant, it's hosted out of our data center. Whereas OneDrive still on the grey area. Microsoft's claim is compliant. We provide our customers all the evidence to for them to consume and for them to decide themselves as to whether or not they were to adopt the service. So that's why eFile Sync came about. Now with eFile Sync you can work more effectively with team folders. So you can put you can basically have like a shared drive within eFile Sync. I'll have to demonstrate it really. OneDrive is very much personal. You can collaborate with a person, so I can say, hi Colin, I want to collaborate on a file with you. I can't like share a whole folder that well. You can, but it doesn't work that well. The one thing that OneDrive doesn't do that eFile Sync does is that eFile Sync is very much an online sync. So when you double click on a file, it will only download that file, it won't synchronize a whole copy of your data locally, which we still recommend you encrypt a laptop, say for example, if you're going to take it out on the road. But OneDrive will synchronize all your data offline. In the new version of the sync client, you can pick folders.
But not having that ability to work offline, I don't know what you think. So for our guys who do a lot of travelling on trains and planes, when you're on a laptop, you're pretty handicapped if you can't get to any of your documents. If they're all saved on OneDrive and nothing.
So OneDrive's always offline.
Yeah.
So that's good. So in that particular sense, it would work very, very well. You have all your documents available offline. You can access them on the train. It's been really useful for me. The only problem, of course, is if you shared a document with somebody and they've gone and changed it. But the new version of the sync client works quite well. It'll create a duplicate of the document, but you have to go merge your own changes.
But obviously, OneDrive is just the Office product, so you know the Office set and Microsoft's own product. So if you're running other apps, then it's better to have them in a desktop. But the ideal situation is to have Office 365 within the desktop to replace the normal version of Office, so then you can access it anywhere and offline. Obviously, you need to make sure the data is encrypted, because I'm running it on my laptop and it's now storing everything. So if I was to lose the laptop, all the data is on there.
So the problem is, so all my customers, what I'm hearing the most is that they want all the security and all the kind of, all the security of this side, but all the flexibility of that side. And there's kind of like an equilibrium to be achieved. And as James is quite right, the way we're currently working on that at the moment is building Office 365 into the hosted desktop. One of the hurdles we're working to overcome at the moment is mapping a drive to OneDrive. So one of the issues you have with OneDrive at the moment is that you're duplicating your storage. So you have your OneDrive storage, but you're having to have that replicated to the data center, and that's obviously it's not great at the moment. But that's a hurdle we're hoping to overcome in the next sort of 3 months, let's say. And then when we've got that, the idea is that users can have their corporate data here, they could have SharePoint consumed over here, essentially. But then you can take advantage of OneDrive. So you can share a document with somebody, and you could be working on it at the same time as somebody else in the hosted desktop, whilst consuming all your other applications. So Office 365 out the box, yeah, great if you just want Office. No one really just needs Office. You need everything else as well, and that's where we kind of add value to the whole situation. So this kind of leads me onto adopting these services. I've nicknamed it innovation as a service. It's not a product we sell as such, it's more of a method we deploy when we enroll certain customers onto new products. Now this works quite well now if you involve the key stakeholders of an organisation. Now a perfect example of this is sort of back in the day, you want to roll out email to someone, you go, right, okay, so there's email, go use it. That doesn't work that well with cloud services. If you involve key stakeholders in an organisation and you start talking about specific difficulties and specific issues you want to overcome alongside a product that you think matches, you start to see how they can work together and how you can enroll the solution so it fits everybody in the organisation. And all of a sudden, everyone wants to use it. It kind of spirals. One person's like, oh, I've got this really cool idea of using this for this particular purpose. And then what you find is that information then disseminates through an organisation, which is a bit different to IT saying, here's a service, we think it's really good, you should definitely use it. And finally, as a partner, we add value to the end product by effectively managing change management and acting in a formative way to help you get the best out of it being a managed service. The cloud can be a bit of a mountain when you sort of discover that there's about potentially 2 or 3 applications doing the same thing. And we understand from our own experience of implementing it which one works most effective for what situation. And this kind of sits on top of customer innovation. We continually research and make ourselves aware of upcoming trends, even those coming in the not too distant future, as James will be talking about very shortly. We'll take that research on board with our engineers, and then we'll carry out R&D, and then all this disseminates outward into this process. So of course the next step is how we're going to tackle that. So I'm not going to sort of steal the thunder off marketing, because I don't think this has been officially announced yet. So consider this a leak. Leak information. So we'll be communicating our progress in the Nasstar, which is a digital publication focused on the technology sectors of the legal, recruitment, financial and government industries. It'll be a completely separate website. I think James might be able to answer any questions about that.
Yeah.
If you've got any more questions. So the customer innovation team will be feeding a monthly innovation update into this publication, amongst all other things. And so we'll be talking about product launches, use cases, and case studies. We'll be informing our customers of upcoming features and a roadmap of things to come with both our existing and also the cloud SaaS products that we partner with. this is something which I think is great, because I hear it more times than not that we've released a cool feature. There's actually there's a couple of new features on e-file sync actually, where we haven't really had a good medium to kind of communicate to you guys. This is out now. Go use it. And for that reason, we will be having an e-file sync webinar at some point to sort of show you how has changed and how far it's come in the last year. Things like that will be in this roadmap. And because most cloud services are evergreen, they're constantly changing, and we as a provider need to have an effective medium to communicate them. We'll be hosting more webinars and workshops, not just for upcoming products, but also helping you use our existing platform more effectively. And we'll be launching the Nasstar University, which is going to be built as a digital online campus where people can learn more about our products and services. So it's kind of like a historical kind of point of reference for all the material that's going to be coming in. And amongst all this content, we've also hired 6 renowned tech writers who are experts in their field, and they'll be feeding some really great content into this as well.
I'm James Mackie. I founded Vesk in 2008, and it became one of the fastest growing hosted desktop companies around. And, I was approached, or I had a conversation with Nigel around October 2014, and because of the reasons I mentioned before, we decided it was best to join forces. So Eno, or Nasstar, acquired Vesk October the 1st last year, so we're now part of a larger group. And I'm head of sales and marketing, and I'm also found myself getting a little bit more involved in innovation. So as I mentioned before, 84% of innovation is not very high risk, and this is the more high risk type of innovation that can bring profits to the organisation. So you might think some of this is a little bit out there, or you might not. I know Shannon and Dan don't think it's too much out there, and you might think it has no relevance, but I really do. So one of the main things I hope is that everybody here learns something today from this. To come on to our first slide, there are obviously a few areas I could cover, and the biggest buzzword in the moment in IT or in the cloud world is artificial intelligence. There's so many ways where this can help, but I decided not to talk about that. I decided to talk about augmented reality, but I shouldn't leave AR without giving it a few accolades of what's happened recently. So I'm not sure if people heard about AlphaGo. AlphaGo beat the world's best Go player. To give you an idea how hard that is, or how difficult that is, I remember being at school and Deep Blue won the chess match. To give you an idea, there are 10 to the 80 atoms in the universe, so 10 times 10 times 10, 80 times. The universe is about 93 billion light years across. The number of possible moves in Go is about 10 to 180. So you've got 10 to the 80 atoms in the universe, but 10 to the 180 moves in Go. And even the creators of AlphaGo, it was a company called DeeperMind, they're actually based in London. It was actually a grand chess master prodigy who set up the company, sold it to Google for 497 million, and that was the start of the AI DeeperMind, and that was the technology that won AlphaGo, and even they said they're not quite sure how it won the Go match. So just to give you an idea. Also some other very interesting things we've been talking about. WhatsApp sold for $14 billion, and when they sold, they had 900 million users, and guess how many staff?
Wasn't many, was
Under
it?
50.
Yeah.
48 staff, 900 million users. And that was thanks to artificial intelligence, because Google now, they actually sell 1,000 AI instances for 60 cents. So you can buy 1,000 decisions based on their open sourced AI for 60 cents, and that's now publicly available. Microsoft do the same. There's something called Microsoft Project Oxford. You can go to the website now, and they've got lots of different types of AI that you can use. One of them is facial recognition, one's emotion recognition. So there's 237 known human emotions, and it can recognise everyone straight away, and it's to a very good level of accuracy. It can detect animals in pictures, and a lot of these are actually now superhumans. They've got better recognition than I would have recognising a friend, or than I would have recognising an animal in a forest that might be hidden. So to give you an idea, a lot of these are now superhuman in terms of their ability. Another one, the last thing I want to mention about AI is autonomous vehicles. So there's a lot about this in the paper at the moment. 1 million people a year die in road traffic accidents. So if somebody was to say to us now, okay, we're going to introduce this amazing way to get around, it's called cars, but it's going to kill 1 million people a year, and 8 million people a year die from cancer. To put it into perspective, you might think about it. So I think it's going to be, and I've got some pictures to actually show you how this works. The other was VR, which is, I've got an Oculus here, the second version of Oculus, which you can try, which is virtual reality, which is great for gaming and for experiences. But again, I don't think it's going to be as popular as useful as AR. I could have also mentioned Bitcoin or cryptocurrency and drones, all very, very new technology that's going to be a huge mega trend. But the reason I decided AR is, and the reason why I've got a very keen interest in AR, is that every 10 or 15 years there's a new mega trend, a new technology mega trend. So in 81 it was the personal computer, 1981. In 96, 97 it was the internet when it came into real mass adoption. 2007 was the first iPhone that was released, or smartphones, so we're kind of ready for another one. And augmented reality, I believe, is the technology that's going to affect everybody, not just in their personal life with gaming and experiences, but in the business life, and hopefully affect and touch everybody in the room. So it's worth looking at some new terminology, whether it's the Internet of Experience or Experience as a Service. I kind of made those up, so have a look on GoDaddy and see if those domain names are free. Okay, so AR, if anybody does or doesn't know what it is, to augment actually means to make something larger, so it's not actually the best definition. It's actually called, or referred to as, mediated reality or mixed reality, which I prefer, because you actually have everything that I could, if I had my AR glasses on now, I could see everything that's in the room with a hologram layered on top. So it's to augment the real life, and I've written down on here, I can send this presentation to anybody after, and this is just the definition from dictionary.com. And not to be confused with virtual reality, the difference is that in virtual reality, the entire world that you're seeing is virtualized, so you're not seeing any real life essentially. And the reason I think AR's so much better is because essentially if you were to be in a dark room with an AR headset, you would have VR essentially. So, so how does AR work? It uses optical wave-guided lens to project light onto HMD, head-mounted display, and as I mentioned, it will give you a hologram. They cleverly use what's now been termed as HPUs, so we all hopefully know what CPUs are, some of us know what GPUs are, but HPUs are holographic processing units, and they're pretty self-descriptive. Now, why do I think it's going to help us in the business sense? There's a lot of reasons, and I've written about this in a blog, which I can send to people if anybody's interested. But the two main reasons, the first one is the input display we use all day, every day. I saw a lot of people, you know, I'm having to open my laptop, close my laptop, there's this one to the side. I saw a lot of people kind of squinting while they're doing the presentations, because you're limited by these displays. With augmented reality, you can have a monitor in front of you as a hologram, any size, and the technology already exists in high definition. So I could literally just pull my fingers and draw a larger display that I could have, say, my Windows 10 desktop on, and then my personal TV to watch a film or anything, and I can make it any size that I want directly in front of me. If I'm giving a talk like now, instead of having to look at my laptop, then the words will be coming down the side of my field of view, my text messages would be coming down this side of view, and essentially I could drive my car, they'd probably make laws against it, but I could multitask. So I'm a firm believer that in the very near future, you know, I'd like to think 3 years, but probably 5 years, augmented reality would be in the workplace and it would take over the monitor, all these kind of lots of ugly monitors that sit in the office, all different sizes. It's the ideal way. Nikki, who's our FD, I see her with 12, 13 spreadsheets open on two monitors. She could literally have 20 spreadsheets open right managing the accounts. So that's one way. The other way is video conferencing. So there's one company called 8i and many others who have developed a technology called volumetric capturing. The way volumetric capturing works is it rotates around any object, so one of us, and it takes pictures of you in at a very close range, and you can actually then see yourself or speak to yourself in 3D. So I'd put the glasses on, I'd have a conversation, and for example, Nigel could be sitting on that chair in 3D, and I would see everything up to micro expressions and the separate hairs on his head, and very close range. So volumetric capturing for just a normal phone call that we might have, and people FaceTime and you're holding a small phone here, or you're on or just on an audio call. To replace that with a volumetrically captured 3D video conference call is, for me, the next step ahead of business meetings. So again, there are many, I've written a list of about 20 really cool benefits that AR is going to have in the business place. They're the two most important ones. The other one I really like would be to sort of go back to what you were talking about LinkedIn earlier on. If I was going to a meeting and I forgot somebody's name, as soon as I look at them, if they had an AR headset on, their entire curriculum vitae could scroll down their LinkedIn profile just to the side of everybody's head, so I'd straight away know not just the simple things like names and age, but previous job history, and all that information would be not at my fingertips, but at my eyeballs immediately. So again, there's just, you can think of the particular use cases for this, and they're the two that I think are going to be really prevalent in business. I think now we've got a video. Okay, so that was the Microsoft HoloLens. Microsoft are pretty much at the forefront, in my opinion. They've got a lot of people working on this. I've got the HoloLens, and it's very good to use. There's two others that are pretty much up there. There's the Meta, which actually is very good at creating art with your hand. You can actually create art with your hands and then 3D print it. The quality is not quite as good, but the Meta 2 is excellent. And then there's Magic Leap. So Magic Leap have just had 1.4 billion of investment from some of the real Silicon Valley darlings, people like Warner Brothers, Facebook. Some of the top guys have invested 1.4, and they've already been valued at $4.5 billion, and they still don't have a product to market yet. So to give you an idea, but for us, we're pretty much big proponents of the HoloLens, and this is something we want to offer a desktop through Windows 10 desktop through a HoloLens. Now, only 50% of the user experience is visual. The rest of the experience, so I can give you a demonstration of this, the Oculus 2, but you're only really going to have the visual effects. When I've had a really good experience is when all of these other accessories are put in. So some of the most interesting is what they're called haptic sensing suits. So they will actually, for example, if you were playing a game and somebody was to fire something at you, you'd have the feeling of air hit you. You've got 3D sound, which is very, very good. 3D smell. The Meta 2 has full hand tracking, so you don't even need to wear gloves, and you can move your hand and your fingers, and it tracks your knuckles and your finger joints, so it knows if you're picking something up, and it's a way to actually be much more immersive with the real world around you. As I mentioned before about the HD quality, and then accessories. So you've got multi-directional walking machines. There's a technology in Utah, there's a place called The Void, and the technology they're using is something called Presence, where they actually trick your mind. So you're on a running machine, and you're walking, and when you're looking, you're actually walking in a straight line. But the running machine's actually changing by 8 degrees. So you feel like you've been walking in a straight line, but you've actually just walked around a large room. So there are all these very clever technologies to make the experience so immersive that you feel like you're in that reality rather than the real reality. So one other thing I wanted to sort of touch on before just giving everybody a demonstration of the technology is everything I've kind of explained is where we're at now. I mean, I tried VR about 20 years ago and I was really excited, and it just wasn't as good. You'll get a feeling now that it's a lot more realistic. Facebook announced the other week that they've got 1 million hours of 3D video. You can buy a Samsung Gear 3D camera now, which I've got, and I can give you a demonstration, and you can take a video, and then you've got a full 3D video, and anybody can use that. So you can look around it with a VR headset, or you can just use my iPhone, and you can move the iPhone around and look around any part of the video. So some really interesting stuff. Now, to take it a step further, we're going to just delve, hopefully for 5 minutes, into the future a bit further. Something I've been interested in for about 3 years is the soft cell lens. Now, this uses a PCB, a printed circuit board, on acetate paper. It will use silver chloride to conduct. And when you actually blink, the kinetic energy from your eyes will recharge the soft cell lens. So rather than having this huge head-mounted display, everybody in the office, you'll have these contact lenses on. And you'll have a complete field of view through the contact lens where you can have the full AR or even VR experience if you wanted to. Now that's really interesting, but a lot of people that I know, I've never worn contact lenses, and a lot of people who have worn contact lenses tell me it's uncomfortable, and if you're not used to it, putting these in just for an experience is going to be, from 9 to 5 every day is not going to be much fun. So one of the most interesting technologies that I've come across, that I've been talking to Shannon a bit about, is called the iTap. Again, not many people have heard of this. The iTap, when you're looking now, whatever you're looking at, essentially all you're looking at is rays of light that are being projected onto your iris and your retina. The way that the iTap works is it actually replicates through a camera those same rays of light and projects them onto your retina. So essentially, if I had the iTap on now, I would see everything that I can see now, nothing would change. So the difference is that in a way it's kind of very slightly readjusting my reality, because the problem with the Hololens and the Meta 2, when you try them, I've got a virtual pet down here, I've got my Windows 10 desktop up there, but they have this very slight light, neon blue light around them, so you almost kind of know it's not real. Whereas if all of the light is being reprojected into your eye of the surroundings around you, when a hologram is then put in front of you in the same level of light with the same contrast, it actually blends in with real life, so it's just as real as a hologram or a hallucination. And the iTap, actually the guy who owns Meta 2, Gribbets, has just employed this guy. His name's Steve Mann, if anyone wants to check him out, M-A-N-N. And the iTap for me is very interesting because it's taking things another step further. And then, we got time, Katie? Okay. And then the final area of around this, which is going probably not much far in the future, but a little bit out there maybe for what I was going to discuss today, is that it's about different types of interface with the augmented reality glasses that we could use. So there's something that's been termed the BCI, or the brain-computer interface, and it's other ways of interfacing the brain with the augmented reality glasses. Now, the way that Microsoft want to do this is using Cortana. Cortana is the AI that is voice activated. It's Microsoft's version of Siri. And if Apple bring one out soon, then they're going to use Siri. So voice activated commands are very good. But if you want to go a step further, I've actually purchased an electroencephalogram, or an EEG monitor. This is a 16-channel one. I've got a 32-channel one that was retired from a hospital. You can acquire them for not much money now on a website called PMed. And with the 32 channels, you can actually monitor all the different parts of the brain. So whether it's the auditory cortex or the occipital lobe for vision, or prefrontal cortex, any parts of the cerebral cortex, surrounding areas, you can measure. And the way that an EEG monitor works, I've put a diagram there, is it amplifies a microvolt, which is the wavelength that the brain oscillates at, which is 100,000th of a volt, actually multiplies it by about 5,000 times. It uses something called a right leg driver to remove any hum from the 50 hertz, 60 hertz mains around us. And it will then remove the hum, and it will then actually give you the raw EEG data in alpha, beta, theta and delta waves. So you can actually start running experiments on how people react, how people, and then integrating that with the holograms that you would display to people. So in health, for example, they've just proven that if you hold one of the 32 channels over the auditory cortex with someone who suffers from schizophrenia, when they hear the voices, the auditory cortex actually goes up. So they are, to all intents and purposes, hearing those voices in their brain through their neurons. So very, very interesting, and it's an old technology. It's been around since, I want to say, the 70s, EEG monitors. So again, it's just more advanced ways of increasing the amplification that we can see to run even more interesting experiments. And I'll send this presentation, but I've written a blog on this which goes a bit more in detail about how the EEG monitors work. But essentially, I just wanted to kind of open everybody's eyes and shed some light and say that I firmly believe in the next 5 years, augmented reality is going to be the next big mega trend in business. Hope you found that useful.
Yeah, very good.
Cheers.